met in either late 1952 or early 1953, and I was single at the time, of course, and certainly was looking around for what you might call a life partner. And from the moment I met Mary, I thought very highly of her, but we didn't start to date immediately. I was dating a friend and indeed roommate of Mary's, Shirley Cameron, and one night Shirley said, "Well, John, I'm engaged." And shortly after that, Shirley and Mary and a third roommate, Pat Childress, who later became Pat Ruttenberg, had a party at their house, and they invited me. And fortunately, I went a week early, and only Mary was there, so I felt really stupid for having got the date exactly 7 days early. Then we sat and talked for a while, and I went away, came back a week later to a much larger gathering, and had a very good time then. And the first date we had was to play records at my house on Military Avenue, and Mary lived on a street that I think is called Camden, and it was something like, in those days, with the little traffic there was, maybe a 5 to 7 minute drive from one house to the other. So I went and picked up Mary, brought her to the house. We played records. She brought Boris Godunov, which I think you can still find on our record shelf, and we played that. I remember taking her back home. We ran out of gas on Sepulveda Boulevard between Charnock Road and National Boulevard. Well, fortunately, it was close to a gas station, and I was able to fix the problem without too much delay. And I never trusted the gas gauge on that Ford again. One of the things I could say about Mary and what attracted her to me was, I guess, first, we really got along very well. She was, let's say, very athletic and liked the outdoors, and was good at sports, and could be competitive in doubles volleyball. One time, Mary and I beat two of our male friends. Our romance grew, and after I proposed to Mary, we didn't tell anybody about it for a week or so, and I got her a ring. I proposed to Mary in about September of 1954, and after she said yes, we had to think, of course, about the plans for the wedding, and it seemed very logical to have Bob Jura as best man and Mary's sister Alice as the matron of honor. After our wedding in a church in Westwood, while we came to Manhattan Beach to Bob and Alice's apartment at 1416 Strand, and that was where we had the wedding reception. And we have a number of pictures of the reception, including our redoubtable nephew Rob, age of approximately 4 or 5, all dressed up and helping out with refreshments. And that was a really very happy time for Mary and me to be newly married into such a congenial family, and to fall heir to this very fine ocean-front apartment in Manhattan Beach. Okay, this is really kind of an emotional time for me to hark back to the wedding reception and the pictures that we have of the wedding reception, which we showed at Mary's Memorial, and to see the fireplace in the background of those pictures. It certainly brings home this wonderful setting that we're seeing here today.
In my travels throughout the house, I came across a letter from Mary to her sister Frances. I think it describes how Mary felt about John from the very beginning. November 13th, 1954. Dear Francis, I realize this is a long overdue letter, but I've really been tearing around doing things. I guess you already know my big news. I wish you could be here for the wedding, but I suppose that's out of the question. Anyway, Mother will probably write you all of the details. She said you looked John up in David's yearbook, so I guess you know quite a bit about him by now. I have met several of John's friends who knew David at Caltech. Fred Ermer, Dave Mason, Tom Connolly, all of whom are coming to the wedding, and we're having dinner tomorrow night with Lang Hedrick and Hugh Carter and his wife. A script site. As Mother may have told you, we are going to live in Alice and Bob's apartment in Manhattan Beach, so you'll have a place by the ocean to stay when you come out next summer. I'm really anxious to see you both, and the children, one of which I've never seen, and to have you meet John. He's pretty nice. Note the understatement. Actually, he's wonderful, and I know you'll like him. I may not do too well on getting Christmas presents to you on time, although I have finished David's socks and will try to get something sent for the children. For you, I'm enclosing some nice green stamps, which I'm sure is just what you've always wanted. Love to all of you, and I'll write more later. Mary.
And I remember that after the wedding, why Mary and I headed north for our honeymoon, stayed in probably north of Malibu our first night, and then visited San Francisco, Yosemite, and Death Valley, to name 3 places on our itinerary, and Las Vegas. So we covered, you might say, covered the state of California and a little bit of Nevada.
So in describing my parents' relationship, they were definitely very warm, affectionate. I guess not overly public displays of affection type of thing. I think in that respect they're both a little bit reserved, but always very respectful towards one another.
When I think of my parents, comparing them to other parents that I observed growing up, and even to date, even now, just very intellectual. I describe my parents as intellectuals, and very intelligent, very cultured, very involved in life, and very involved with their children, and offering just a wide variety of opportunities to their children.
Well, one of the really clear legacies of John and Mary is all of their kids are just super bright, and they're intellectually curious.
I would say one of the things that really that Mary and I had in common was a love of music. One of the things that Mary and I liked very much was Dixieland, and in particular Kid Ory. Kid Ory was a member of Louis Armstrong's original band in the 1920s, and like many members of the Louis Armstrong band, he broke off and formed a band of his own. Kid Ory played the trombone, and he had a group of about 5 or 6 musicians with him, and he hung out at a place called the Beverly Cavern. And we would go to the Beverly Cavern frequently, and we followed Kid Ory around to different locations after he left the Beverly Cavern. And Kid Ory would love to play the songs, including some that he had written, such as the Muskrat Ramble.
I think both my mother and father, obviously very, very well educated, both have advanced degrees. I believe Mary ended up with 2 advanced degrees. In any case, lots of education. They traveled on occasion, sort of in an educational context. So there was, in lots of different ways, education was identified as important. In some sense, it was almost just an unspoken theme. It wasn't like my parents had to say to me, education is important.
Well, I think, over the years, they changed. So I think when they were younger, they were having all these kids and focus on all the kids and having to control this madhouse. And then there was our family was interfacing with them. And then when they got older, they became interesting in the sense of evolving and like having animals around the house, and Opa being very focused on the cats and giving them baths, and Oma kind of thinking that was a silly thing, and kind of just joking with him a little bit about that.
John and Mary, my parents, all of our parents really lived different lives than we did. Their generation survived the Depression. They fought in wars. they did all these things so that they could raise us and send us to after-school programs and allow us to participate in all kinds of sporting activities and lead very comfortable and privileged lives. So we have John, Mary, Robert, Alice, and all of their generation to thank for that.
Another musical thing that they both liked a lot, I think especially John, was musical comedy and musical theater. And a couple of times, John came and got me out of school, and we went to see musical theater performances. One was Kiss Me Kate, and I believe Alice Jarrah was just accidentally with her friends sitting behind us when we went to the music center to see that performance of Kiss Me Kate. And I think we may have gone to see The Mikado also. And this is when I'm in like second grade or something. So I felt extremely important that my dad's coming during the day, getting me out of school. We go off downtown and see this thing. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. John and Mary both, but John even more, he liked to sing a lot. And I believe that my grandfather Zine was also a singer, that he sang with an amateur group.
They were very dedicated to each other. They were committed. I remember seeing them once. My dad was giving my mom a hug, and he said, "Look, MaryAnn." He wanted me to see that, and I just thought that was so sweet that he wanted to make sure that that I saw, you know, their closeness and how much they cared for each other.
Children are very important in our family, and it was always about the kids. And Opa and Oma also working really long hours. Some of the highlight of all of our young existence was when Opa brought the Gemini spacewalk helmet to class, and we all got to wear, every kid in the class got to put the helmet on, drag the gold cord through the hallway of the school, while all the, you know, that could never happen now. It would just be against the law. But that was it. To Opa, that was a great thing. You would just reach out and hear the kids deserve the right to wear the helmet that the astronaut wore walking in space. And so I think for me, and trying to raise my child and be a coach and be other kids, it's all about the kids and trying to have them have a good time.
It really inspired me how Opa graduated from high school when he was 16 and went to Caltech when he was 16 and I'm 16. It made me feel like I have something to live up to. I think the Opa's passion for science and math kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. I like math a lot. I like art a lot, and drawing and painting I like.
And she liked to sculpt, she liked to play music, she liked to paint. And we all like to do those things. We didn't quite understand it at the time when we were growing up, and now looking back, I understand it much more.
Thanks for tolerating a disturbing force in your household, and for helping and nurturing him, and for taking care of him and showing him a little bit about how to behave and how to move forward in the world, because that certainly wasn't where I was going. Opa, I want to thank you for always being a source of amazement and wonder in my life.
I would like to thank you for one, having so much patience, and maybe it's not just patience, but stamina.
Mom, I know you did the best you could. It was more than good enough. I wish you were still here so that I could share more time with you. I really appreciate the last year of your life. I feel we got closer than ever during that last year. And I love you very much, and always will.